and speeds my game, and today we're reacting to another Powerpuff Girl video, but this one is Power Snuff Animated Movie Part 1, made by Norman Bargo. Hold on, Norman Osborn from Spider-Man made this? Let me chill, Green Goblin. But nah,
Editor Manic here. While I was editing this, I just realized Norman is actually a girl. I did not know that. My bad. Oh yeah. Like, if you're watching this, Norman, I'm sorry. I was making a joke that your name reminds me of Norman Osborn from Spider-Man. So, yeah. Anyways, let's continue the video. Oh yeah. Sometimes I used to stop making these jokes.
we can have it full. Content. Alright, so chat. Okay, we're gonna read the content warning just in case art and anybody. Okay. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Ree, for making this. I love this fiction when I was a kid. Enjoy it. Bro, same here. No, cause bro, I liked it, this fanfic. It reminded me of Marvel Ruins, man. But it reminded me of Marvel Ruins though. Something like that. There was some little cons to the story, but we'll talk about it later. I want to watch this actually. I've been avoiding.
The city of Townsville,
Ooh.
a peaceful place filled with friendly
This pretty much is
citizens
the
saying
animated.
hi to each other as they pass on the street. Children playing in the park without a care in the world, and home
Not
to
curious.
everyone's favorite little superheroes, the Powerpuff Girls. Sugar, spice, and everything nice.
Okay.
These
Sorry
were the
about that,
ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girls.
Well, I like
but
this.
Professor Utonium accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction: Chemical X. Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born, using their ultra superpowers, Blossom, Bubbles, and
Pretty much the
Buttercup
intro
have
of the
dedicated
video.
their lives
Pretty
to
much the
fighting
intro of the
crime
show.
and
I
the
say video. I'm
forces
tired,
of
man.
Evil. Innocent Bubbles, the sweet,
looks
cheerful lass
good.
with blonde pigtails, was playing with her stuffed animals, lost in her own imaginary world. A teddy bear was currently going to the grocery store to buy honey,
Aww.
but is stopped by a bunny rabbit who claimed to be an old friend. The rough yet loyal Buttercup liked to spend her time hitting and kicking her punching bag, working as hard as she could to improve her strength. She liked power and had lots of it, but it just
Definitely.
never seemed to be enough. Despite her
I
tough
would never
nature
wanna
and
fight
spicy
the Powerpuff
attitude,
Girls,
she
I'll
was
tell you
still
that.
just as sweet as the other two. Last, there was Blossom, the leader, sitting on their bed and reading a rather large book on biology. She would study highly advanced subjects, not for school.
Okay, this is off topic, but I like their art style. Their art style reminds me of like I'm reading a kid book. I like their art style, man. I definitely like it. So this is pretty much just the audio of what the creator had made, but they just drawed everything over it. I like that. I like this. It's gonna be good. This is
As
part
she
one.
enjoyed
You're gonna get a part two.
intellectual stimulation. Blossom was incredibly smart and was still only in kindergarten. The girls were wretched out of their own little world by the buzz of the hotline, which was wont to mean trouble. Blossom flashed over to it, immediately accompanied by her sisters, and picked up the receiver. "Yes, Mayor?" she said urgently.
I like this
"Bravo,
art style."
girls!" exclaimed the mayor of Townsville on the other end. "Mojo Jojo has built a huge missile launcher thing and is pointed straight at the city. He's controlling it from his lair. Oh, please help!" "We're on it, Mayor," Blossom exclaimed before hanging up the phone. She turned to her sisters. "Mojo is at it again, girls. Let's go." Without hesitation, they zoomed out of their bedroom windows and flew toward the volcano, which on top held the lair of Mojo Jojo. Mojo Jojo was one of the more notorious criminals that wreaked havoc on the city, and often came as a challenge to
Is that
the girls,
Mojo?
where he had the
His eye looks
advantage
so
of
dark.
enhanced brain power and technology on his side. It was pretty impressive seeing as how he was a monkey, but just like the girls, he had been exposed to Chemical X. "Not so fast, Mojo Jojo!" Blossom cried as the girls crashed through the roof. Mojo was sitting at a control panel for the missile launcher and was about to fire, but the arrival of the girls caught his attention. He laughed evilly.
You cannot stop me this time, girls! For you see, I am over here, and you are over there! This is a problem for you because the button to launch the missile is over here! But I am the one who has the button, which is over here!
That's pretty much how Mojo talks.
Without warning, Buttercup darted toward Mojo and clocked him right in the
Damn!
face. However, before he fell out of his chair, he managed to hit the red button, which said LAUNCH on it. No! Buttercup shouted, but Bubbles was 2 steps ahead. She shot back outside the lair, and the missile was about to fire, but with a mighty kick, Bubbles spun the launcher up toward the sky instead. Then, with a deafening, the giant rocket flew out into space. When Bubbles returned to the fight, she saw that her sisters had it pretty under control. Buttercup socked Mojo in the face a few more times.
That dude was on the ground!
To kick him in the stomach, causing him to fly.
He's done for. Look at him. His brain is out and everything. Yeah, dude, she pretty much just kicked this man on the ground like, you weak piece of trash, and just kicked him. Let him, bro. The pop-up girls already disrespected him.
Backward and onto the floor. The helmet on his head was cracked a little bit, so part of his brain was exposed. Well, Mojo, said Buttercup confidently, her hands on her hips as she stared exposed. Well, Mojo, said Buttercup confidently, her hands on her hips as she stared down at the monkey. Had enough? To all 3 of the girls' surprise, Mojo started laughing.
Okay, that's Blossom. Probably the Norman chose Blossom because he felt like Blossom would say, you had enough? Makes sense, and then you know what else is gonna happen after. So yeah, because the creator said Buttercup.
Surely you did not think that I didn't think of a backup plan?
He cackled.
I knew that you were trying to stop me, so I thought of a clever backup plan to back me up if my first plan failed, which it did! But you did not think I would have thought about such an ingenious plan!
Okay, well, what is it? Asked Blossom impatiently. Mojo Jojo whipped out of control with a red button on it that said, Launch again! That's it, Buttercup scoffed. I ain't in the missile at this
Yeah, even they know it. Okay.
Little voice.
Okay,
Ooh,
they
this
know.
Is not for that missile launcher!
Mojo exclaimed, and he pressed the button, revealing a secondary cannon at the base of the first.
With this, I will finally destroy the Powerpuff Girls! That is to say you! You will be the ones who are destroyed! For you are the Powerpuff Girls!
Yes, they are the Powerpuff Girls!
Blossom shouted quickly. Bubbles, get ready to redirect the missile if it launches! They all split up, Buttercup pounding away at the machine, and Bubbles eyeing the head of the missile carefully, prepared to intercept it. Blossom was fighting Mojo again, for he had
listen, I could not live in Townsville, bro. Imagine, bro, Mojo is literally trying to use a missile to destroy the girls, which, yeah, because the girls are, like, literally 3 versions of Supergirl and Superman. But if that missile hits them, wouldn't that just murder everybody else in Townsville? Just imagine you going on with your day and you just see explosion come near you. I'll just be like, fuck, because you don't know what the hell you could be doing during the day. I'll be angry, bro.
Another backup plan. This time, the red button was on the wall, and it said, Launch once more! Mojo was scrambling to get to this 3rd button, but Blossom had a hold on his cape, tugging him back. There was a huge explosion, and the entire missile launcher crumbled to pieces, the missile itself detonating inside the cannon and worsening the machine's damage. Bubbles and Buttercup turned to watch Blossom, who had lost grip on Mojo's cape. Though his machine was destroyed, he desperately clambered to the button, perhaps to engage a completely separate launcher, but Blossom was determined to stop him. She shot toward him, intending to hit him in the back to throw him to the floor again.
Yep, this is when it starts getting dark.
Squishy thump, and then complete and utter silence.
It just happens out of nowhere.
Slightly, a little disorientated, but then suddenly noticed something peculiar about her arms. Long, shiny steel blades were protruding out of the skin on her forearms. They were extremely sharp and were currently covered in blood.
Oh.
Shocked, she looked down at herself and saw that her pink dress was now wet and a deep crimson. Bubbles screamed bloody murder and then began to sob hysterically. Buttercup's green eyes were wide as she stared at Mojo Jojo's motionless body. Blossom slowly turned to see what had happened, and her heart stopped at the sight. Mojo's eyes, still open, were listless, his mouth slightly agape, and his arms bent at odd angles. The most shocking part, though, was the fact that his lower body seemed to be missing. Mojo had been completely torn in half. Trembling in terror, Blossom's eyes found the lower half laying about a foot away, the intestines spilling out haphazardly. The amount of blood that covered the floor was immense. Blossom stepped forward, her lip trembling and eyes brimming with tears. Mojo? She squeaked. Maybe this was just a cruel joke Mojo was playing on them. There was no way he could be dead.
Yeah, so yeah, it makes sense they would think it's probably something like that, cause bro, they're still kids. They like, hold on, I would never kill someone in GTA. Like, it ain't no joke. I don't think Mojo is smart, unless he has a clone version of himself fighting them, and then he waits until they get to that point where their mental is fucked up, and then just defeats them. I mean, that would be a good plan. Hold on. Let me be. Hold on. Let me be. Nah, I don't want to be Mojo. Never mind. Let me shut up. I ain't trying to be my ass beat every day.
Bubbles cried harder, curling up into a little ball on the floor, and Buttercup remained frozen to the spot, unable to tear her gaze away. At last, Blossom came to the full realization of what she had done, and she dropped to her knees, sobbing and staring at the odd blades coming out of her arms. What were they? How did they get there? What did you do? Buttercup finally screamed, tears running down her face as well. It was an accident, Blossom shrieked, holding up her arms. I didn't know I could do that. He didn't mean to. What the heck are those? I don't know. With a great amount of concentration, she managed to retract the blades, which looked as though they were much too big to fit inside her arms. When they had been concealed, there was no sign of damage.
Well, not really.
To her skin.
Wolverines are different.
Blossom was
Let me
still
shut up.
crying
Like,
as
you
she
got
knelt in a
Baraka
large
blades.
puddle of blood. We have to tell someone! Bubbles squeaked. We have to tell the mayor! No! Blossom shot, and she got back.
In some art styles, them blades do look like Baraka's blades.
Back to her feet, staggering from the lightheadedness the terror had given her. We can't tell anyone! We just can't! Blossom, we're supposed to protect people! We're not killers! Buttercup shouted. We've killed monsters! She tried to reason. Mojo was not a monster! Mojo was just as much as a person as we are! This isn't an act of justice! This is a crime! We need to tell the mayor what happened! But they'll lock us away!
I ain't gonna lie, as much as y'all beat the living shit out of him, I wouldn't be surprised if this nigga did die from CTE. Like, y'all will beat this man into a concussion. He was much human as we are, but proceeds to beat the living shit out of this dude, disrespect this guy. Bro, I gotta watch the DVD. I've been procrastinating and not watching this series, but there's just some episodes where Mojo will get so disrespected, bro. There was an episode, I think, when Bubbles was thinking she was Mojo, and Mojo comes out, and he's like, okay, why is Bubbles trying to act as me? Buttercup gives this man the two-piece. He has no clothes on. The two-piece combo. They even, bro, traumatized this man where he would want to go to jail. I'm not surprised this dude don't have no, so severely bad CTE, or the point he will die in a few days. But, yeah, that's my opinion.
Hey, if we...
Yeah, Buttercup, you can't be saying he is much human. Y'all treat him as one. Y'all beat the living shit out of him. Like y'all Batman.
Just explain it was an accident. Shut up! Buttercup fell silent, but Bubbles was still wailing. Bubbles,
I
stop
love
crying!
the art style.
Trembling uncontrollably, Bubbles covered her mouth and stared at her
I like the rough
blood-drenched
sketch.
sister.
Like, it feels
Blossom
like you're
began to
watching,
pace,
like we
where she
reading a
was making
children's book that's...
sounds when
you
coming
should
in
not
contact
sound.
with
You
the
know
wet
what I'm
floor.
saying?
He was a criminal. Maybe no one will notice that he's missing. Blossom, that's not right! Buttercup exclaimed, but Blossom rounded on her again. We are not telling! However, Bubbles shot through the ceiling where they had broken through, and Blossom yelled, Stop her, Buttercup! Though she wanted to disobey, Buttercup went after Bubbles and grabbed her around the waist. Let me go! She shrieked, tears still streaming down
kick
her
her,
face.
bro, kick her in her leg or something.
Wait, Buttercup hissed. We need to come up with a plan.
Nah,
This calmed Bubbles down a bit, and the two of them flew back down to Mojo's lair. Blossom was staring at the body, horror still plain on her face. Then she held up her arms and brought the
pretty
blades
much
back
just
out,
rewatching
staring
this.
at them
I
in
like
confusion. What's happened to me? She muttered. Why do you always get the new powers? Buttercup snapped, but Blossom glared at...
I mean, it is a new power, but what if she just got this power and she didn't kill somebody? Hold on. she would have just been like Wolverine, but Wolverine's comes from his fingers. That shit has to hurt. Like, them shits coming out of your shit. Cause I know for Wolverine, them shits hurt coming out of his skin. Why you think every time he does it, he be like, ah! That nigga screaming, he like, ah! I'll be crying.
That's not the issue here! The strange weapons retracted once more, and she looked solemnly back into the lifeless face of their
Baraka blades.
I'm sorry.
Pretty
I'm
much.
so sorry. Blossom, said Buttercup gently. We need to tell the mayor. Blossom was quiet for a moment, and then she looked right into Buttercup's eyes. Grab his lower half, and I'll get the upper part. We're throwing the body into the volcano. What? Bubbles and Buttercup exclaimed in unison. Don't question me! Just do it! Buttercup begrudgingly approached Mojo's legs, trying not to vomit as she saw the innards strewn across the floor. With a light sob, she picked it up, and her and Blossom flew outside to drop the corpse into the lava. Bubbles curled up on the floor again, staring wide-eyed at the still bloody floor. When Blossom and Buttercup returned, they both were silent, Blossom's eyes wide with fear, and Buttercup wiping her tears away, succeeding in staining her face with the blood on her hands. Bubbles looked at them. What are we going to do? She murmured. Just then, Buttercup looked at Blossom and cringed. Blossom saw this and furrowed her brow. What? She asked, and Buttercup shakily pointed to the top of her head. Blossom curiously felt her head and touched something moist and squishy. Grabbing it, she looked at the thing and suddenly shrieked, throwing it to the floor. It was a small chunk of flesh. Blossom covered her face and cried.
I would have called everybody to take them down.
Buttercup suggested, once again holding back the urge to throw up. Blossom shook her head. We're not telling anyone. She shot them both a glare. Do you understand? Neither of you are to tell a soul! But, Blossom...
It's like we're just reading a book.
Blossom held
up
her hand to silence her. Okay, well, will you agree to tell the professor about your new
I just
ability?
Like the art style of the girls right
gingerly.
here.
You have to admit, 2 giant shards of metal ripping through your skin isn't normal, even for us. Blossom nodded sadly, bowing her head, her messy red hair falling over her face. You both are covered in... Bubbles didn't want to say the word, but the other two knew what she meant, and it was true. Since Buttercup had helped dispose of Mojo's body, she had gotten blood all over herself, too. We can't go home looking like this, said Blossom, gripping a chunk of her hair and examining it, for it too had traces of the undesired substance. Well, this is Mojo's home, said Buttercup. He has a bath and a washing machine. We'll just clean up here. Seems kind of tactless, Blossom muttered. We don't have a choice.
You already murdered the dude. You might as well.
And then Blossom approached Bubbles, holding out her hand to help her up. Bubbles whimpered at the blood on her skin, but allowed her to assist her anyway. While Blossom and Buttercup began cleaning up the gore still left in the middle of the room, Bubbles found the bathroom and started the bath. She saw a yellow rubber ducky sitting next to the soap, and her lip trembled again. She covered her eyes as she waited for the bath to fill. In a short time, the other two had thrown their dresses, stockings, undergarments, and Blossom's bow into the washing machine, and then joined Bubbles. All 3 of them dismally sat in the warm water, Bubbles holding the duck to her chest, as if it was the last thing left in the world.
I don't remember this being in the story. I remember this. I probably didn't talk about it because I didn't make a video on this. Like I said, go watch it. But I don't remember this part of the story where they just, clean themselves at his house. Well, his lair, not his house, but his lair. I must have just skipped over the parts I just really did. This is filler to me. I was caring about the main parts, That's probably what
Blossom was silently crying, trying not to pay attention to the bathwater turning a dull maroon color. Buttercup herself actually kept her eyes closed. You guys know I didn't mean it, right? Blossom asked quickly, turning to her sisters, who nodded. Of course, said Bubbles softly. But that's why we need to turn ourselves in. No, Bubbles, Blossom insisted, though her voice wavered. Let's just wait until the professor can get rid of these things. She looked to her arms where the blades would come out, which she now could control.
Yeah, I don't remember this part. I don't know. I probably skipped over it, or in the audio it didn't show this part.
Buttercup retrieved their clothes, but the stains hadn't come all the way out. In fact, their stockings had entirely turned a light brown. Oh no, she said, showing Blossom the dresses. Luckily, Bubbles hadn't needed to wash her dress or stockings, or they would have gotten tainted as well. The green and pink dresses now had brownish spots, though they looked more like mud. "We'll just say we got dirty," suggested Blossom, and then she inspected her stockings. "These are ruined, though." "We'll just change when we get home," said Buttercup, pulling on her clothes, but ignoring her own stockings. The other two got dressed as well, and then slowly floated into the room with the destroyed machine. It alone was a painful sight. After tying her bow back into her hair, Blossom gestured for her sisters to follow her, and they flew back home.
Hi, girls,
said Professor
Professor!
Utonium jovially, as the girls floated through the door. All three of them tried not to look guilty, Bubbles struggling with the urge to start crying again.
Oh my, you got your clothes all dirty.
"Rough fight," Blossom choked out.
Well, how about you three go change, and I'll get those stains out for you,
he suggested. Blossom and Buttercup exchanged looks, and then the three of them flew
I like
to
the
their room.
art style. I keep
"You
saying that
realize
shit,
what
but I
the stains
do.
are, right?"
It's like,
asked Blossom
oh,
softly, as she
it
pulled on
reminds
her
me
clean
of
dress
like a
and
book I would
stockings.
read as a kid.
"Don't know," Buttercup replied.
Like the
Bubbles
rough,
watched them,
the rough
holding her stuffed
sketches
animal
and
octopus as
everything.
tightly as she had held Mojo Jojo's rubber ducky. They went back
What's
downstairs
good, Corey?
to give the professor
We right
their
now doing a
laundry, and
YouTube
then sat on the
video.
couch to watch cartoons. Bubbles
Say
still
hi,
clinging to Octi.
YouTube.
They hoped that maybe television would help keep their minds off of the tragedy. Professor Utonium was about to throw the dresses into the washing machine
I
as
only
sustaining
remember the
order,
important
but
parts of
something about
people
the
dying.
stains
Like,
caught his eye.
you know,
He rubbed at one on Blossom's dress,
I ain't gonna
but
say
only
if no
felt
one
fabric.
really read this,
It was not
but
dirt.
we pretty
In
much
fact,
reading,
it
rereading
looked
it
like...
while watching.
Curious, the professor took the dress down to his lab and thoroughly inspected the stain. To his surprise and mild horror, he found his suspicion was confirmed. He knew that the girls' fights would get quite intense sometimes, but they've never come home covered in blood before. If anything, it was usually some kind of slime or mucus.
Hey, girls,
He said when he came back up from his lab.
who did you fight today?
"Mojo Jojo," said Buttercup, and when they turned to look at him, they were horrified to see him holding up the pink dress.
What on earth happened to cause this?
He asked, pointing to the brown stains. Well, you know, he's violent," Blossom said in a squeak.
I mean,
But this is a lot of blood.
said the professor.
yeah, when y'all think about it, I would have said, bro, the monsters we be fighting be hella big. So I could have went through the monster doing a dragon fist and blood would have went all through me. How's he being so skeptical? Buttercup came home with mud all over her and she was stinky as heck. But I guess when blood is on them, he's like, oh, what happened? Usually y'all beat the living crap out of them. Bro, they couldn't even beat Godzilla. The orange dude was Godzilla, but they didn't have the rights to Godzilla, so they said, well, we gotta make it an off-brand Godzilla. I thought the other green dude was just Godzilla, but I was wrong. So the Powerpuff Girls could never beat Godzilla.
Are you three alright? Are you hurt?
"We're fine," Blossom and Buttercup choked, but Bubbles' lip was trembling, and the professor noticed this.
Bubbles, what happened?
Before the other two could stop her, she started sobbing again. "Blossom killed Mojo!" she
In
wailed.
GTA,
Blossom gasped, but when she noticed the professor's expression, she began to panic. He was pale, staring at Blossom with confused terror, unsure of what to say or do. Her desperation and fear overcame rationality, and in less than a second, she had shot at the professor and shoved him to the floor.
oh no!
doing?" Buttercup shouted, and she attempted to apprehend Blossom, who was crying now. "No one can know," she sobbed, struggling against Buttercup's hold.
no.
Professor Utonium never took his eyes off of the two of them, specifically Blossom.
What's crazy, Professor could have helped them. He probably would have told them that these are something new powers, but they're like opposite since they help people and everything, which is foreshadowing something in this, because this is only part 1.
He couldn't believe that his sweet little girl could have taken a life, even that of a criminal. Bubbles stayed on the couch, watching the scene and continuing to sob. "He can help us!" Buttercup
I would have
pleaded with
lied and
Blossom.
said
"He
Mojo
can
killed
fix
somebody.
you. If we don't get help, we'll make
In
things
GTA.
worse." Blossom noticed the professor start to get up, intending to run and call for help, and she once again acted without thinking. Pushing past Buttercup, Blossom slashed
What
the
makes it
professor's
sadder,
leg with one
he's
of her
going
blades.
out by, he's
He
getting
yelled in
murdered
agony
by his
as
own
his leg
daughters.
was actually severed below the knee. "Professor!" Bubbles and Buttercup shouted. "Blossom, what are you doing? Buttercup bellowed at her sister, who still cried as she watched the man bleeding on the floor. He's going to tell. We have to keep him here, she replied hysterically. So you chop off his leg? Buttercup smacked Blossom across the face.
Oh!
He is our father. He can help. Why
Exactly.
would you do that?
No, fight her.
Panicked.
Buttercup!
The professor suddenly gasped, tears running down his own face. Buttercup gave Blossom a violently hostile look and then descended to the floor to help him. It's okay, she said, but was mostly trying to convince herself. It'll be okay. We'll be okay.
No. Oh.
Buttercup had gone to hug him, but just as her arms wrapped over his shoulders, there was a horrific squelch, and blood splashed on her face.
Should
Buttercup froze, and there was a long silence before
Yep.
Bubbles shrieked again.
Professor's dead.
Afraid of what she was about to see, Buttercup lifted her head. The professor had been decapitated.
Damn.
She stammered,
Oh my
backing away from the
God.
body, but suddenly noticed what had caused the death of her father figure. On both the front and underside of her forearms, a large rounded blade had emerged, making both arms look like double-sided axes. Blossom had her mouth covered, looking between the headless man and her sister, vision blurred from tears. What's happening? I'm next! Bubbles screamed. I don't want to hurt anyone! I don't want to kill anyone! Buttercup shot into the air, glaring daggers at Blossom. This is your fault! She shrieked. My fault? Blossom yelled back. How is this my fault? I didn't cut off his head. You cut off his leg. If you had just kept calm, he wouldn't have been hurt in the first place. He was asking too many questions.
That
So
is
what?
true.
You're going to attack anyone who asks a question? We're not criminals, Blossom.
Y'all are
Buttercup
now.
held out her arms to show her new weapon. He could have prevented this. He could have fixed you. If you'd have just agreed to tell someone about Mojo, the professor wouldn't be dead. Bubbles continued to wail, covering her face with Octi. Bubbles, stop crying! Blossom bellowed, and Bubbles stifled her sobs. Blossom looked to the professor's body, and she herself had to keep from screaming in despair. Blossom, we have to tell, said Buttercup firmly. Bubbles is right. This has happened to both of us now, so it's probably going to happen to her too. At this point, I don't care if we go to prison for the rest of our lives. I can't live with the guilt. In one
Bro, they
day,
probably gonna have
two
them in
people have been killed,
large
and
containment.
both of them were responsible for our birth. Don't you remember the story about Mojo Jojo pushing the professor while he worked? And it gave Mojo his increased brain power too. Yeah, well, if it wasn't for Mojo Jojo, we wouldn't have blades sticking out of our arms because we wouldn't have powers in the first place. said
Damn,
Blossom.
that's fucked up to say.
Buttercup was trying her best not to look at the
They're
professor's
just
body.
saying, we
She
wish we
sighed,
that nigga was never
managing to
born.
retract her blades. I don't care what you say. Bubbles and I are going to tell the mayor what has happened today. Do you love me? Asked Blossom softly, and Buttercup met her pink eyes. Of course I do. I love you and Bubbles. Then, please do as I say.
Nah, she lost.
The
She
room
lost.
went
She already
silent,
lost
save
her
for
mind,
Bubbles
bro.
sniffling.
Y'all saw how the lighting looked on her, the
Blossom.
darkness
Buttercup
around
pleaded
her.
after a moment.
I ain't helping
We
her
need to
ass.
clean
I'm
this
say
up,
hell no, I
Blossom
love
said
you.
firmly,
You just killed
trying
her
to keep
father.
calm.
Well,
Bubbles,
I
help me
did.
take the professor down to the lab. We
Look
need
at her
to destroy
eyes.
the body.
They
We
darken
can
a
use our
little.
heat vision. No! Bubbles cried angrily, wiping her tears. We need to bury him. It'd be wrong not to give him a proper burial.
Exactly.
If we bury him, his body could be found, Blossom argued. We need to get rid of the evidence. I'm not going to help you do that. Fine, Buttercup, you help me. Bubbles, clean the mess up here. Buttercup hesitated, her lip trembling. Buttercup, help me! Feeling more miserable than she had in her entire life, Buttercup assisted Blossom by carrying the professor's head. She tried her best to tell herself it was nothing but a simple, wet basketball. Bubbles watched them go, and then sadly went to the kitchen, not even bothering to fly. She returned to the crime scene with many different cleaning supplies, staring at the huge amount of blood on the carpet. There was no way she'd be able to clean it up. She didn't even want to. As she bent down to wipe the area with a towel, her hands shook, and her vision became blurry with more tears. She couldn't do it. Bubbles collapsed into the crimson puddle and sobbed, curled up in a ball on her side. She didn't care that she was now bloody as well. She just wanted the nightmare to end.
Damn.
When her sisters came back up, both looking extremely solemn, they noticed Bubbles laying on the floor. What are you doing? Blossom spat. Why is this not cleaned up yet? I can't, Bubbles squeaked, shaking as if she was freezing cold. Then just Go up to the room, and we'll take care of it. Bubbles did what she was told without arguing, entering their colorful and happy-looking bedroom. She realized she hadn't smiled since before they left to stop Mojo Jojo, and even as she hugged another one of her stuffed animals, she continued to frown. She sat on the end of the bed, blood on her dress staining the blanket, and stared at the hotline. Bubbles contemplated calling the mayor, but she was afraid that Blossom would get mad. Why was this happening to them? When was she going to accidentally take someone's life with the arrival of their new ability?
I don't want to be a killer,
she told the dolphin she was holding, her eyes stinging from the amount of
I
crime
ain't gonna
she's
lie,
done for the
she
past
kind of
few
sound like
hours.
Bubbles.
I'd rather be in jail than hurt anyone.
By the time Blossom and Buttercup managed to get a majority of the blood cleaned up, it had gotten dark. The girls entered the room to see Bubbles beneath the blanket, fast asleep. They were exhausted too, so they got into bed as well. Maybe we'll wake up, and this will all have been a nightmare, Blossom
Hell
whispered,
no,
and
that was the
Buttercup
worst
snickered,
nightmare I ever
laying down
experienced
without a
then.
retort. Still trying not to break out into more tears, Blossom lay her head on her pillow, closing her eyes and falling asleep. Called a soft voice. Blossom's eyes opened slowly, looking around for whoever was calling her name. She gasped as she saw a swirling red portal on the opposite wall. Blossom, come here. Though she was frightened, Blossom carefully rose into the air, floating over to the vortex.
How are you gonna make him look?
She whispered. Blossom, come here, the voice repeated. She hesitated, but then entered the portal. She found herself standing on a cliff, and surrounding her was boiling lava and flickering flames, which reached into pitch-black nothingness that should have been the sky. Blossom was frightened, holding herself for comfort. Hello? She called, but recoiled as a burst of flame shot up right in front of her, revealing a tall, thin figure with red skin.
Him looks
The
cool.
androgynous man
Pretty
grinned
much looks
down
like
at
him.
Blossom, a smile
I mean, of course
all
it don't
too
look like him.
familiar to her. Him?
Hello there, little Blossom.
I
Said
just like
him
the
in
art
his
style.
eerie, high-pitched voice.
I keep saying that.
Sure have been having some fun lately, haven't you?
Blossom's expression became angry, and she whipped out her blades, holding them up for him to see.
Did you do this to me?
She screamed, tears running down her cheeks. Him laughed, and a comfy armchair appeared out of thin air behind him. He sat down and crossed his legs in a feminine way, eyeing the Powerpuff Girl curiously.
Why, no, I did not.
He replied.
Though I'd love to shake the hand of whoever did do it. Rather clever, don't you think?
No! Blossom yelled.
I killed Mojo Jojo, and Buttercup killed the professor. We think Bubbles is next to get this power.
Most likely.
Said him apathetically.
Most
But
definitely.
who knows? Maybe hers will be slow and harmless, just like she is.
If you're not doing this, then why am I here? Blossom demanded.
I just wanted to see how you were holding up, that's all. Your first time is always the most vivid.
She dropped to her knees and sobbed.
Man, him
gently,
is enjoying
retracting
this.
the
She
steel
like,
blade so that she
finally.
could cover her face.
Whoever did
I
this,
don't want to hurt
doing
anyone.
my job
I
for
didn't
me.
mean to. I didn't want this.
Aw, don't be sad.
Him cooed, standing and kneeling in front of Blossom, touching her chin to make her look up at him.
Everyone has to grow up eventually, even sweet little girls like you. It's a shame, I know, but we have to accept the changes that come with getting older.
Do you really think this has something to do with aging?
I ain't gonna lie, yeah, I don't get, okay, that part, okay, I would critique, like, what type of, like, that don't have nothing to do with getting older. Me murdering somebody doesn't have to do with getting older. I feel like I would have said, what, like...
Blossom spat, smacking his claw away.
It's possible. Of course, I wouldn't know for
He's
sure.
a dick.
The professor probably would have.
Well,
Him
it's the
cackled.
devil.
Such a shame that he's dead.
Stop patronizing me! Blossom shouted.
You misunderstand me. I'm on your side.
No, he isn't.
Sisters aren't.
Him
He lo-
suddenly teleported behind Blossom, and she whipped around to face him, terrified.
Bubbles and Buttercup, bless their hearts, want to turn you in. They don't care about your feelings at all.
That's not true!
Blossom cried desperately.
Then why don't they do what you say? Aren't you the leader?
She was silent for a moment, lost in thought.
Just like you said to Buttercup, if they loved you, they'd obey you. It's your job to keep them in line.
His last 4 words were spoken in a low and harsh tone, making Blossom flinch.
That wouldn't be fair,
she mumbled.
Fine, don't take my advice,
said Him sweetly.
Blossom still looks like she's sleepy. I don't know if that's just part of my computer stream or...
Blossom screamed as she was engulfed in flames, but a second later, she found herself on her bedroom floor, panting and covered in sweat. After a moment of sitting there regaining her composure, she decided that she wouldn't be able to get back to sleep, so she went back downstairs.
Damn.
When Bubbles and Buttercup woke early the next morning, they were worried to see Blossom missing. They flew downstairs to look for her, trying to ignore the light brown stain on the living room carpet, and found her in the kitchen. She was sitting at the table with a mug in front of her, and her eyes were wide as she stared off into space.
Blossom?
Buttercup said tentatively. Blossom's eyes snapped onto her sister's, and she smiled, which unnerved them a bit.
Good morning,
she said, her voice a higher pitch than usual.
It's a wonderful morning. I'm looking forward to seeing all of our friends at school today. Blossom,
even after we just murdered our father,
asked Bubbles, hovering over to look inside the mug.
Yeah,
she exclaimed, her eye twitching.
Great stuff. I'm ready for the day. Yep, nothing will go wrong today. Didn't you sleep last night?
Said Buttercup, alarmed
yeah,
at
you
her
tell
manic
Blossom
behavior.
slowly losing her
No,
sanity.
I
Look at her
sleep, so I
eyes.
came down to watch TV, and then I was like, hey, I'm hungry. And then I saw the coffee, and I figured that I'd be too sleepy for school, so I made the coffee. How many cups have you had?
Asked Bubbles slowly.
I don't know. I lost count.
Her sisters exchanged furtive looks, their concern escalating.
Maybe you should stay home today,
Bubbles suggested.
Oh no, I couldn't do that. I haven't missed a day this semester. Miss Keene would be so disappointed in me,
replied Blossom, still smiling that strange smile.
But Blossom,
said Buttercup, but Blossom interrupted.
I'm going to school!
She shouted, and the other two flinched.
I'm going to school, and I will have a good day! Don't argue with me!
Though afraid of how Blossom was
if I was
acting,
Buttercup, I'm
Bubbles and
smacking the
Buttercup
back
started
of
to
her
get ready
head,
for
bro.
school,
Making
not
her
feeling hungry
lights
enough
out.
to eat breakfast. It wasn't long before Blossom joined them, now completely silent and no longer smiling. Once dressed, the girls slung their backpacks over their shoulders and left the house. It felt weird to just go to school and act as if nothing had happened the previous day. In fact, if it weren't for the stain on the carpet and absence of the professor, the girls would have genuinely felt like it had been a bad dream. Now the world seemed empty and unrealistic, the tragedy leaving a gaping hole in their hearts. Miss Keene was giving a lecture on subtraction,
the only person
but
named
none of
Mert
the girls
is
were
Miss
listening very
Keene.
hard. Bubbles' lip was trembling, feeling as if there were a golf ball in her throat, trying not to cry. Buttercup slouched in her chair, plagued by a painful headache as she was overcome with depression. Blossom gripped her dress firmly, trembling slightly, giving a tiny twitch every few minutes. The images of Mojo Jojo and the professor's bodies wouldn't leave her mind. Carrying them, destroying them, cleaning up the blood. It was traumatizing, and no little girl as young as her deserved to witness, let alone experience, such horrid events. Nevertheless, her stomach churned in anticipation, as though she was waiting for something exciting
What
to
was that?
happen. There was so much blood.
Her eye?
So much blood.
Miss Keene,
Blossom suddenly squeaked, thrusting her right arm into
I
the
feel like
air.
it's gonna leave
The
off
teacher
with a
turned
good
her
ass
attention
part.
to Blossom and was shocked to see how pale and sickly she looked.
Yes, Blossom? I don't feel well. Can I go?
Because it's probably gonna be 3 parts,
Bubbles and
just like
Buttercup
the other
stared at
one.
her,
There was
but
3
were
parts.
relieved that she was finally taking their advice.
Yes, you may.
Miss Keene replied.
I hope you feel better.
Without so much as a goodbye, Blossom was gone in less than a second. Flying far away from Townsville, her eyes fell upon the vast woods and dove down toward the trees. There she simply sat against a trunk and buried her face in her arms, pulling her knees to her chest and crying.
Why is this happening?
She whimpered to herself.
I'm a good person. I help people.
Blossom thought about the professor and felt even more remorse.
I can't believe he's gone. This is all my fault.
A bird squawked as it took flight from a tree branch, and she lifted her head to watch it, her eyes listless. Then she twitched. Slowly getting to her feet, she didn't even bother wiping the dirt off of the back of her dress, and she started, not flying, but walking deeper into the woods.
Oh, yeah.
Fuzzy Lumpkins was inside his shabby
Oh,
cabin,
man, I feel
sitting
sad
on a
for
bale
this
of
dude.
hay.
He
and
wasn't
tuning
even
his
bothering
banjo.
nobody.
He liked to keep
That's
to
the-
himself, preferring the comfort of the woods over the hustle and bustle of the city. He hated people, and he got angry whenever someone trespassed on his property. All of a sudden, the wooden front door began to creak open, and his attention was torn away from his instrument. Furrowing his brow, Fuzzy stood up, wondering if the wind had pushed it. However, when it fully opened, he saw a tiny figure standing behind the frame.
Blossom?
Fuzzy
Home
growled angrily,
invasion.
huffing and getting ready to hit the Powerpuff Girl. Her blank pink eyes simply
Oh,
stared up at
nah.
him, and Fuzzy grabbed his gun.
Y'all best getting on your way, or I'll blast your pretty little head right off!
She didn't move.
You got till the count of 3. 1,
Blossom stepped into the cabin.
2,
She closed the door.
3.
Fuzzy froze as two extremely sharp blades shot out of the little girl's arms. His eyes widened, staring at her as if she were a
No.
ghost. Blossom's eyes began to
Blossom,
fill with tears.
please.
I'm sorry.
She mumbled,
Oh, you're running.
continuing to approach.
There's no
fuzzy
point in
pink
running. They
creature.
gotta, yeah. They running.
Blossom!
Buttercup called
I
as
feel
her
like
and
they coulda
Bubbles
left
flew
off
into
from
the
there.
house. School had let out, and the two of them were anxious to see how their sister was doing.
Blossom,
Y'all ain't
you
gonna like
home?
what y'all about to see.
Blossom?
Bubbles tried, checking the kitchen.
Maybe she's in her room. I hope she's sleeping. She looked exhausted.
Said Buttercup.
Look at, you can
They
see
flew
her
into the
eyes.
room,
She ain't
but
sleep.
stopped when they saw a figure curled up in a corner, facing away from them.
Blossom?
Said Buttercup softly, and her and Bubbles slowly floated over to her, landing on the floor behind her.
Are you okay?
Asked Bubbles.
You should be
Bubbles paused, suddenly noticing patches of blood on her arms and in her hair.
Blossom. He never comes to Townsville.
Said Blossom in an emotionless, almost inaudible tone.
He never goes anywhere. No one will know he's gone.
That's tough.
She lifted her hand without facing them, and clutched in it was an antenna that was topped with a gray ball of fuzz. Then she
ripped that shit
carelessly
off of
dropped
him.
it on the floor. Buttercup quickly covered Bubbles' mouth as she was about to start sobbing again, for she was afraid that any sudden actions would cause Blossom to flip out. Keeping Bubbles in her arms, she silently rose into the air and backed out of the room, closing the door as quietly as she could. Bubbles was squeaking and whimpering desperately, trying to express her distraught, but Buttercup gestured for her to calm down, even though she was having difficulty staying calm herself. Without making any sounds, they flew out of the house, Buttercup holding Bubbles' hand as she kept her lips shut
They gonna
tight,
go see the
holding
dead
back
body?
the urge to cry.
He's already
At last,
dead.
the woods came into view, and they descended straight toward Fuzzy Lumpkin's cabin, landing on the porch. They stared at the door fearfully, and Buttercup met Bubbles' eyes. Bubbles quickly shook her head, and Buttercup exhaled, pushing the door open. Bubbles finally started screaming and crying at the sight. What was once a pink bear-like monster was now nothing but chunks
Oh
of
my
blood-soaked fur,
God.
torn flesh, and stray organs. Unlike the previous day, Buttercup couldn't keep herself from throwing up. She retched, coughing up nothing but bile since she hadn't eaten all day.
Hold on.
Bubbles
Okay.
shrieked.
Man, Fuzzy Lumpkins really didn't deserve it at all. Cause man, yeah, he a villain, but even in the show, he's just an introverted dude. Like if you don't even go in the woods near his house, you'll be good. Like it's like going near a hillbilly house in real life. Just don't mess with them. That's all. I'll be honest. He ain't really a threat if you just don't mess with him. Cause what would he do as a villain? He's a villain because he hates everybody. He just wants to be by himself. He's an introvert.
Unable to tear her eyes away from the bloody scene.
She said it had been an accident yesterday! That she didn't mean to do it! Why is she doing this?
I ain't probably gonna put a
I
lot
don't
of
think
editing
she
in
really
this
meant to
because
do this, Bubbles,
we watching
Said
this.
Buttercup, her tone calm even though her entire being was overcome with horror. She slowly pointed to the far wall, and there was a single word written in bloody slashes carved into the wood.
Damn.
Sorry.
I'm scared.
Bubbles whimpered,
I'm
and Buttercup hugged her
scared.
tightly, finally starting to cry as well.
Me too, Bubbles. Me too.
After a few minutes of attempted comfort, the girls exited the cabin, closing the door and sitting on the edge of the porch. They didn't speak to each other, even as Buttercup brought out her axe-like blades to examine them. Finally, she retracted them again and turned to
So
her
they know how to
sister.
control
I don't
them.
care
Like
what
Buttercup
Blossom
know how to
said,
control
she said
hers.
firmly.
We're going to tell the mayor. This has gone way too far. Killing the professor was going way too far.
It should have
But
been
you
to the
didn't
point
mean
where
it
a
either.
professor.
Said Bubbles with a sniffle.
But, you know, you have to keep
Yeah,
the story
but do you
going.
think
It
I
would have been
haven't
a short
stopped
story
feeling
with
guilty
logic.
about it? It was still me who did it. And if things hadn't happened the way it did, it probably could have been someone else. We need to stop this before anyone else gets hurt. And before this happens to you. Let's go now.
Said Bubbles quickly, rising into the air.
Hurry before Blossom has a chance to realize we're gone.
Buttercup nodded,
Before she
and they
snaps
flew as
into
fast as they could
consciousness.
to the mayor's office.
Y'all, man, if y'all mess with this, make sure y'all go subscribe to me as well. Make sure y'all go subscribe to Norman Bargo. The next one will be part 2 of Power Snuff. But like I always say, if you ain't first, then you're last.